Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Alliance of Independent Authors Advanced Self-Publishing Salon with me, Joanna Penn, and Orna Ross. Hi, Orna.
Hi, Joanna, and hello, everyone. Here we are again.
Yes, and we are almost, or November, we're almost towards the end of the year. So I hope you are doing whatever you need to do before the year is out. We're certainly busy. We'll talk about that in a minute. Well, today's topic, we are talking about new opportunities and technologies for authors, and we will be focusing today on NFTs, which we will explain more in a minute. But before then, we'd like to do a bit of an update. So, Orna, what's going on with Ally?
Ally is in celebratory mode. We were very honoured to be awarded Indie Champion of the Year by the Romantic Novelists Association last week. You were there. You were nominated. As was Claire Flynn and another indie author, Lizzie Lamb. But it was great. We, really, really thrilled to accept. I was there accepting the award on behalf of the team and all our advisors, including yourself and everybody else. So that was great. And the other big thing that's been happening at the moment, of course, is Self-PubCon, our annual online conference, and that was free all of the previous weekend and half price last week, but is back now behind its paywall for another little while. So if anybody wants to catch up on things, look at the sessions again, it's Self-Publishing Advice conference.com. You'll find it all there, and we'll need an all access pass, which gives access not just to the conference that's just completed, but actually every conference we've done since we started, and indeed, if you buy a lifetime pass, all the conferences to come. So
Fantastic.
That's been us. How are you?
Yes,
what have you been doing?
Busy. I am finishing energy on Tomb of Relics. I've been working on a whole load of bits and bobs, working with quite a lot of freelancers and getting things designed, and working with the AI-narration people, which we will be focusing on next year. And also, I can't even remember I think I walked St Cuthbert's Way last month since we spoke, and essentially walked a 5-day pilgrimage, and I'm going to turn that into a book. So I'm putting together some plans. Next year I should be moving into another subgenre or another genre of writing. I'll be doing travel, solo walking under the travel sort of genre. So definitely really busy. I'm also working on an AI assisted author mini course coming out before Christmas. So yeah, I feel like I've got a lot on, and a lot of it is writing. I'm doing a lot of extra episodes on my own podcast, so lots of recording. But we like being busy. And how about you?
Yes, of course we do. Work is more fun than fun.
Exactly.
Also busy upgrading my website, which is really doesn't sound like a big deal, but whenever you're upgrading a website, it actually lots of questions come to the fore, and it's really a complete reorganization of my work actually, and how I have been kind of presenting everything on the fiction and poetry side. So it's been enjoyable up to now, and now I always have trouble with the fiddly finishy bits. I love the big vision stuff, and always when it gets in end, it was supposed to launch actually today, I think. Won't be ready for another day or two, but yeah. It's one of the things I'm doing is what we've talked about a lot before, is putting patrons and community central. So I'm really, really excited more about getting it out there than anything else. And yes, a new approach to fiction and everything else, but I'll talk about that next month when actually things are in place. But yeah, it's full on. It always is. I think of this time of the year as the busy season every year. It always seems to be, because of course everybody's winding up as well for the Black Friday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the holiday season sales, promotions, everything. So it's all go, but it's all good.
It is all good. And I think this year I redid the creative pen and reorganized that and redid the theme, and that was a lot of work, did a lot of SEO work. Next year I'm also going to do my fiction brand JF Pen and really redo the website, and also really think about my positioning and put selling direct up front and all of those things. And again, just to remind people, both of us have been doing this over a decade, and that means that you have to update things. Things change and you have to keep doing it, otherwise all your stuff stagnates and disappears. And it is these things come up and they're kind of overheads of a business, and it's inevitable.
Absolutely. And there's never a good time to do it. But I think it comes to the point where it feels so icky and it so doesn't represent you anymore that you have to kind of do it. So that's the way it was for me anyway. It's not something I would voluntarily have chosen to do, but I'm really delighted to have it done.
Excellent. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that. I think next year we're going to talk a lot more about branding. But talking of things changing, today we we are talking about NFTs and blockchain for authors, because 2021 has seen an acceleration in technological tools, lots of them. In fact, I briefly mentioned AI. We talked about an audio narration by AI as well. And so there are lots of things going on, but today we just want to focus on NFTs and blockchain for authors, because we feel like it's a big enough topic and it is all over the blogosphere at the moment in the author space. It's really, and it's been around for at least, like 2021 has been the year of NFTs, and musicians are on it, artists are on it. And as creative entrepreneurs, we need to be aware of this. So I want to start, and we're going to get into some definitions. But Orna, first up, I want to wind the clock back to 2017, when Ally started to talk about blockchain for authors and actually released a white paper on it. And you had a session at London Book Fair. There was a flurry of excitement about blockchain for authors. Then it all went quiet. So as the less techie one of the pair of us, you saw this first, for which I am crediting you.
Wow.
So yeah, I know, but you saw this several years ago. So what inspired you about the potential of blockchain technology for authors, and then why did everything go so quiet?
Yeah, so what was inspiring to me, and I'm not techie, but I am very interested in what technology can facilitate. And I could see that blockchain was almost like the pinnacle in something that we had been talking about since we started in Ally, which was the fact that if you're an author, you can write what you like, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're an indie author, you're also a publisher, and you need to think about business. You are essentially in business. And when you look at how publishing was structured, it was impossible for an author to be in business because you licensed your rights, and so you didn't have that very important part of the puzzle. But also the transaction chain was just crazy. So, and I say this, of course, all of these things. We've got the super advanced stuff that we're kind of going to touch off today, the things that are already happening, and then what happened in the last century is still happening in the book space. So all of these things are I'm saying but it isn't past tense. This is still how maybe the majority, but certainly an awful lot of authors still get paid last in the transaction chain. So a customer goes into a bookstore, the bookstore gets paid, the distributor gets paid, the agent gets paid, the publisher gets paid, the wholesaler gets paid. Last and least, the author gets paid. So what self-publishing did was it made it possible for authors to get paid first. Now, we don't get paid first in the sense that if we only use Amazon, or if we don't sell direct on our own websites, if we don't have something that we sell ourselves to our customers, we don't get paid first. But a lot of authors are switching over, and they're beginning to, even if they are using the old model, they've moved to the new model for some of their books or some other products or whatever. So for me, blockchain, when I heard about what it could do, what was so interesting to me was that it could split the transaction at the point of sale. So that in the very moment that you get sold, that the product is sold, the book is sold, everybody gets paid all at once. Or the author, alternatively, is driving it, is at the head of the thing instead of at the tail. So that was enough to get me interested, and we did a big exploration then. And it's funny because we were looking now at updating this white paper that we did in 2017, but an update isn't even possible. Things have changed so radically, because a lot of what we were concerned to do at that time was set context, help people to understand even the concept that authors were in business was something that we kind of felt at that time people need to be hit over the head with.
Sometimes still.
Sometimes still, absolutely, sometimes still. So there was a lot of contextualizing and stuff going on in that white paper. So I think the reason it went quiet was there wasn't enough practical stuff going on. So we talked about what was possible. We talked about its potential. We mentioned some services that were springing up at that time. Interesting, most of them are not at the forefront of the space now. But, you know, we did what we could. And then I think it was just that bit ahead of its time. It was still in the conceptual phase, even though a lot of people were working on it. And now I think that's changed. Now we can almost, I think, it won't be too long before we're actually seeing lots and lots of authors jump in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely got excited about blockchain stuff like the last year. And then realistically, 2021 has been the first time we've even heard the term NFT. So I think important to say upfront, you don't need to know how the internet is coded in order to self-publish a book on KDP. You don't have to know how PayPal works in order to get money and then download it to your bank account. And what we're saying is you don't need to understand how to program blockchains in order to take advantage of this type of thing. And what we are also saying is it's still early days. So this is kind of an awareness session for you if you haven't heard these terms before. And so we'll go into it hopefully at the right level, and then no doubt over time we'll talk about it some more. But let's just start by defining NFT. It is a terrible name. It's an acronym. It means non-fungible token. But I was talking with some people about it, and I was like, are we really going to call this an NFT book, or what is it going to be? And what I like is this idea of a digital original or a digital special edition. When it comes to what authors, us, what we will do, it will be a digital special edition. And why this is so important and why I'm so excited is a couple of years ago, and you and I have private conversations before we share them in public, and I was like, oh my goodness, I am really worried about indie authors because I see that the value of digital is trending towards zero with the unlimited subscription model. And I'm very worried that our primary means of making money is going to disappear. And now we've got the answer. I really seriously, I think this is maybe one of the answers, but it's a big answer, which is digital scarcity. And we understand that with the principles of buying and selling, having scarcity means something is more valuable. So, and then the other amazing thing about NFTs, digital originals, is the ability to resale this. So think of it as a digital asset. And if Orna buys my NFT project that I put out, Orna buys it, and then Orna can resell it, and I get a percentage royalty on resale. This has never happened before. And to me, it is ridiculously exciting because I make money as the transaction goes down the chain for presumably the life of copyright, which is 70 years after I die. And because smart contracts can be essentially set up with beneficiaries, you could potentially, I'm way ahead of us now, but you could potentially put in your heirs and successors, you could put in the charities. So many authors ask us, don't they? I want to give a percentage to charity. And we're like, oh, it's quite difficult right now. But this could mean you could do that easily. So those are some of the things I'm excited about. What about you?
Yeah, and I just want to say that all of those are possible because of blockchain. It wouldn't be possible to make that happen without blockchain technology, and that's why blockchain is exciting. And I think it's also important, really important to say that when it comes to digital scarcity and or what you're going to put into your digital special edition, it's really important that we value ourselves. And I think, in the indie author community, there has been, we needed a way to differentiate ourselves from traditional publishing and give ourselves an advantage. And very often the advantage we've used in the community has been the price advantage. We are more nimble, it doesn't cost us as much to make books. And so we've priced lower than traditional. And that has advantages, certainly. And in particular genres, like romance and certain genre, it's really important. But it also has downside. And this is an opportunity for us, as you rightly said, to redress that balance. But we won't do that unless we value ourselves as authors. And I think books should never have been priced as low as they were. And that happened just because of there being a lot of competition in the market. A book is not really fairly priced for the amount of work that goes into it. And I'm talking about, full-on books, not
even like
not
$15 for a paperback. That is
yeah.
still, it could be someone's work for years and years. I mean, I completely agree with you.
Exactly. So this is an opportunity, not just for us to think about the technology and everything, but to think about the value of our product and what we're bringing, and the community that we've built up around us, who, the people who are already buying our books. This stuff, like everything we talk about here on the Advanced Salon, this stuff is, the more work you have done, the more books you have, the more readers you have, the more of a following you have, the more relevant this stuff is for you. And I think, NFTs will come into their own for those authors who have done the work of building up direct followers, fans, super fans, some of the things that we've been talking about, the 1,000 true fans concept comes into its own here with NFTs, because you can really, there are lots of our followers who want something more than just the book. And it's been very difficult to be able to deliver that, because you got it, with physical products. As writers, and publishers, we just don't have the time for all of that. But digital makes it possible for it to go to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is an NFT? Yes, that's the definition, a non-fungible token. But what does that actually mean? Because most of us now in the indie community, we're used to formatting an EPUB, for example, or paying someone to format an EPUB. We upload it and that's what someone gets on their device. Okay, but with an NFT, I want people to think about, I'm calling it like a digital box, like a box or a container, and then you can put in it whatever you want. So there are artists right now using it for visual art, and the most common things people are seeing are these sort of JPEGs of characters and avatars, which is one specific use case. That is not NFTs, that is one use case. Then there are musicians, for example, who are doing collectible editions, albums, songs, tickets to live events, merchandise. There are tokens that can be used to get a physical object. They are access to communities, and so that you can get into a particular forum, or you could have a consulting session with an author. So it can be the book plus a load of other things. So I'll talk about what I'm going to do. So I'm going to, hopefully, in the next month or so, couple of months, let's say, in the next 3 months, I will intend to do an NFT for Tomb of Relics, which is my next novel. And the NFT, the container, will have I'm probably going to have 3, because I want to price them at a decent amount of money. And this is the first book that I have used pseudo-write, which is an AI tool built on GPT-3, which we've talked about separately. This is the first time I'm using this new method of creation. And so it marks this moment in my life as a creative where I'm starting to use different tools. And there'll be a video of me actually writing. So you actually see the screen and you see my face as I type, you see the words arrive. And so that will be, and there'll also be a photo of my hand edits. I edit by hand on a manuscript. So it will be one of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. And those NFTs, each one is totally original. And hopefully they will sell, although it's a very small market. And then I'll also put into the smart contract, if people want to resell them, even if it's in a decade time when maybe I'm someone, it will be worth it for the investment, or someone just wants to support my journey. So that's some of the things I'm thinking. What about you, Orna? What are you thinking about?
Just want to first say that you're someone already.
Thank you so much. I hope to be someone more in a decade.
I'm really interested in using this new technology and going back right almost into prehistory, to very, very old. So I'm going to use it for poetry. My daughter's an artist, so she's going to use AI generated. We haven't worked out the details at all, but she's going to use AI to produce some visuals for the words. They're going to be translations of very ancient Irish texts, but redone using AI. and put together in some way. Now, I don't know about the special effects or, what we're going to add in there. Orna, my daughter, she runs a collective, so there may be some opportunity for something around that as well. But I'm so excited about it. It's such fun. I too have started to use Sudowrite. We've discussed this before, and I'm loving the way it's making writing so much more fun, as well as increasing productivity. But it just lightens everything up. And then the idea of doing something that's so completely different is really creatively very energizing. So yeah, I'm all a bit vague at the moment, and I won't be doing it until mid next year at the soonest. But
Right.
very excited.
Right. And just to be clear, we're interested in AI as a completely different thing to NFTs. The NFT can just be a special edition of your book. It can be, I've been using some generative stuff to create character pictures. You could even work with a cover designer and come up with something special. Some people are doing video covers. So the point is, there is no one thing of what an NFT is. And also, we're only at the beginning, so it could turn into so much more. For example, the Alliance of Independent Authors could issue a token for membership as opposed to the current membership type model. There are things that are going to work around community projects for we'll come to the project that's been the most in the news recently, but I did just want to say, in terms of platforms, there are a few platforms around at the moment. Publica was around when you did that thing at London Book Fair, and bookchain.ca I've had on my podcast. Both of those have tokens, and you can sell, you can resell, you can transact, but there's no marketplace. But Book Vaults is a new service. Books Go Social has a blog post on the Ally blog about doing NFTs through them. And I've just interviewed the guys at Creatokia, and that episode will come out on my podcast probably. As this goes out on the feed, it should be out. And essentially, they are an established brand in the market. It's going to be run by a company called Bookwire. So I think this might be the first one that's much bigger and who already have relationships within the publishing industry and are well established. And in talking to the guys, it's very organized. You can have a look at creatokia.com. I'm sure we'll put some links in the notes. But essentially, I think that's going to be potentially the one I use. And there are, let's just talk about the environmental issue.
Yeah, to say the Ally blog post, it's selfpublishingadvice.org/NFTs. And Creatokia are actually on the blog as well. And Book Vaults, it's not as Books Go Social. Lawrence O'Brien, who runs Books Go Social, has contributed to the post and talked very much about his project there, because he is really specializing in indie authors. But also the Creatokia guys are there, and Book Vaults also there, talking about how they are doing things and how it's slightly different. So it's quite a long post, and it also has the basics in it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I guess, sorry, just on that, the point is that there are companies emerging who are going to help us do these things technically. It's not like, the original internet where you had to kind of code HTML or whatever, Java, whatever. You don't have to do any of that. There are already companies that are going to help you put together the NFT and then sell the NFT. But it's not going to be like a lot of the sites. I mean, there are costs involved. So this is not just something to jump into. And again, we're saying this is an awareness thing at the moment, but hopefully we'll see more things. So yeah, let's talk about the environmental issue. I mean, Orna, we're obviously very concerned with the environment. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so, and I think it's important for two reasons. First of all, because obviously the environment is important to us all if we're aware, awake, and thinking. But also because the accusation or the perception that NFTs are fundamentally environmentally a no-no is being used to kind of stop the certain people, and we'll talk about this in a minute with regard to one particular case study, but it is a criticism that is being levied. And the thing is that different blockchains, some are much more environmentally friendly than others. Lawrence talks in the post about wax, and they are carbon neutral, I think. And what I have been kind of very impressed about is the way in which once that awareness was raised, how quickly the services moved on it. And, you know, this is a young people's territory. It's millennials who are in here really kind of running, setting the pace here. And this is the most environmentally aware people are the people who are making this happen. So if that is a concern for you, it's certainly something that you kind of need to look into. But I think it's something that all NFT blockchain platforms are going to be looking at very, very closely. And lots of them are already doing the carbon offsetting. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, first of all, you're right. So the carbon offset I'm seeing on every single platform now, people are like, okay, here's the partner that we're working with to carbon offset. Even if they are only slightly positive, there are some blockchains that are carbon negative, which is kind of crazy. And in fact, if you just do some basic Googling people on environment and NFTs or blockchain, there's so much stuff going on. But the other thing is the redesign of existing transactional blockchain. The biggest one is really Ethereum, and Ethereum 2 is what they're sort of talking about, which should be, I guess people are saying, middle of next year. And what I think is that the carbon offset will be the answer to up until then. And then it may be that solves the problem. Or maybe we're living in a time where carbon offset is something we do for everything, because the other thing about blockchain is that it's much more transparent. So you could level a green issue against the traditional publishing industry in terms of book printing and pulping and shipping and all of that. I have no clue how much our carbon issues happen within traditional publishing. This is just being raised about new technology, but what about existing technology? So I think we have to start questioning everything, not just one particular thing. So anything else on that, or should we talk about the what's been happening?
Yeah, I think just in terms of, a lot of these criticisms are arising out of fear of change, I think, and that's what this particular case study is interesting. A group of young of YA authors were very excited. A short while ago, they were setting up a writing NFT project called Realms of Ruin. They put it out there and they got absolutely hammered. People just brought up all sorts of things, and the environmental implications was part of it.
Accusation of being a Ponzi scheme or a multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah, just lots and lots of really fear dressed up as criticism in some cases, critique in some cases, concern in some cases, but really a pile-on. And they very quickly withdrew. And
everything. They pulled down the entire, they've spent months building this stuff and they pulled everything down. They apologized, and bless them, they're like, we have answers to these things, but we just feel it's got, we have to just pull everything down.
Yeah, which to me was a very interesting response. And, I feel as creators, of course, we listen to our communities. But, you could see the creative energy that was there for the project. And then you could see the sort of creative devastation that was there when they got that response. And I think it's part of a wider cultural thing where, creators it's really important that we stand up for what we believe in, because as creators, we're leaders, not just followers of our community. So yes, absolutely, our readers are really important to us. Yes, absolutely, our community is important to us, but you will never please all of the people all of the time. And the people who are scared are always the people who they scream, they shout, they're scared, and so you hear them, and who's to say who might have benefited from that project, and how many other people were actually sitting quietly saying, hey, this is amazing, because without a doubt, people were. So I think it's really interesting how much fear rises whenever there is change, and whatever new technology we're talking about. And it's happening in the indie author community very much too, around writing AI and other developments. So yeah, I think that for me, that's the key thing, the key takeaway. I really wish they had stayed there. I really wish they'd held their ground. I really wish they'd put it out there. And of course, have those debates. It's really important that we have those conversations, the environmental thing, everything. Is it a pyramid scheme? Is it, let's talk about it. If we just withdraw and don't go there, then we don't even get to have the conversation properly.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I mean, maybe it's because we've been around a while now, but it feels just like the energy that used to be directed at me and you at the beginning of the indie movement. The stigma, remember the stigma of self-publishing, the fact that, oh, what are you doing? That's so terrible. Why would you ever do that? This really negative energy, which is still, it exists in a very small amount compared to how it was in the first years between about 2008 and 2014. That there was
Difficult.
this,
It was hard
difficult
to go out there. I
Yeah.
had a number of times where it was really, really, if I was the type to get upset and run away, I would have got upset and run away. But
Yes, me
now
too.
it's indie champions,
Yes,
and it's prizes, and it's a good thing. So
and more than that, it's a
yeah,
full-time income
yes,
for so many people. And I guess I've been talking about this a while on my podcast, and I've had a few comments, and I have, some people are sort of, oh no, not you too, you're jumping in on XXX and whatever. And I would hopefully that people listening in our community know how long we've been doing this, and that we're not hypey people. We're actually kind of creatively curious, but also we're entrepreneurs. And so I feel like I haven't had this form of excitement since the beginning of indie, since like, oh my goodness, I can do this and that and the other. And this to me is the technology of the next decade, the next 15 years. This is, as you what are you calling it now? Self-publishing 4.0.
yes, it is. It is self-publishing 4.0. I mean, yeah, absolutely. 1 was desktop publishing, 2 was ebooks, 3 was authors in business and taking the lead, not just going with one service or one trade publisher, and 4 and selling direct and all those things that we've been talking about. And now 4 is all of these very new, different types of technologies, which allow us to do very different things that you can't do with a simple ebook, or you certainly can't do with a simple print book. And
Yes.
at the heart, of course, is the rights, because that was something else that happened, wasn't it? In this, you could see the rights issue rearing its head in this controversy as well. And do you
Yes,
want to talk about
yeah.
that?
So this concerns me because NFTs, like we talked about, it can be an EPUB, or it could be an audiobook, or it could be a bundle of them, or whatever. Now, if you've signed a contract licensing your rights to ebooks and or audiobooks, and or if you're older in traditional publishing, you might have signed digital rights away on a contract. And I found evidence from 2008 that was the contract addendum that was going around. Just sign over your digital rights. They don't really mean anything. And that means presumably you can't do NFTs. Now, there was an agent who kind of jumped in on all this YA author stuff going, oh, don't make me go down that route, don't make me have to do that. And I was reading it going, how can you think that way? If you think about resale of digital original assets, that's money that I think the publishing industry is going to be very interested in. And so for me, it's very important that we are more cognizant than ever of what rights we are licensing and for what term, because we might miss out on opportunities to create value for ourselves, for our community, and to do these things like smart contracts. And again, this wasn't even really around last year. So what will come in the next few years? For example, I published my first ebook in 2009, and I did my first audiobook in 2014, I think. So that's 5 years. So right now, as we record this in 2021, what's going to come up in 2026? I don't know yet. But people tend to think that we're at this static point, that this is it. But this is not it. This is just one point on the journey, and this is the next step. So yeah, what do you think about the rights side?
Yeah, I think you've described it really, really well. The main thing is that we are really, it's always been our advice to, limit the territory, limit the term, but limit the format, only sell a format. And I think the best example of this is J.K. Rowling. She, back in those days that you're talking about, when publishers were sneaking this digital rights thing in, because publishers always know, go for as wide as possible, for as long as possible, take as many rights as you can. Every rights buyer will always be trying to maximize the range and the width of what's there. Some of them will just be rights grabbing as much as they can, and there's the reason for that. There is a reason they do that, and particularly in this space, because you don't know what's going to emerge. She was savvy enough to not go for that. She held on to her digital rights to Harry Potter, and if she hadn't, there would be no Pottermore. 25 billion that she wouldn't have.
$25 billion company built off the back of those digital rights.
Exactly. So It's really, really, really important to think about that and to recognize this fundamental. I think authors don't understand how important their rights are. And this isn't about NFTs. This is about everything. We see it with audiobooks a lot. I hear a lot. I just hate this sentence, well, I wasn't going to do anything with audio anyway, so I might as well have sold it to one of these audiobook publishers that gives you a couple of grand up front and the rights are gone for 10 years. Well, okay, maybe you're not going to do anything with audio, but maybe in 2 years' time you might. So really thinking very, very carefully and understanding the value that's embedded. A lot of authors saying, I'm not making enough money, but they're not thinking about all the different formats that their books can be. And when you look, you see that they only do an ebook or they only do a print book. So this extends now, becomes even more important as these new kinds of formats and possibilities and potentials come into the marketplace. So yeah, valuing ourselves, valuing our rights, valuing what we do, and the huge thing that self-publishing 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0 have done for us, which is allowed us to be the people who decide and make the decisions around our rights and selectively license them wherever we want to. This isn't about not working with publishers or not working with agents or anybody else who can help us. It's about being selective and understanding the value of the rights. Yeah, really, 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 really important now.
Yes, and if you've been listening to us for years, we have been harping on about it enough. But yes, I think the main thing is it does feel a bit Wild Westy right now, and that's because it is like the Wild Westy days of the first years of ebooks. It is a new technology. But again, think back to the late 90s, the sort of dot-com boom of the year 2000. There were a lot of companies around and a lot of them disappeared, but Amazon I wrote it down. Original Amazon was like founded in around 1994, something like that. And look how much is that worth. But I found the date. So Amazon KDP was founded in late 2007. And I first published in 2008, and then it wasn't really available to international authors for another year or so. Smashwords in 2008, Kobo 2009, iBooks 2010, Draft to Digital 2012. So realistically, we've only been in just over a decade of 14 years for Amazon KDP, but pretty much we are not this is just the next iteration of what our ecosystem is going to look like. So again, you don't need to buy anything, you don't need to join anything, you don't need to do anything. All we would ask is that you educate yourself, and we're obviously trying to help with that, and stay curious and stay playful, as opposed to sort of the fear and the doubt and the uncertainty and jumping on the negative side. We want to stay open to the possibilities, and of course we will share as we have our own experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't run this down unless you've, don't knock it till you try it. I think is really important. And I do understand that we can feel a bit overwhelmed. We're just getting to terms with ebooks and audiobooks, digital audiobooks, and the rights that we have to all of these. And now, boom, along comes this kind of thing. This isn't going to sweep anything away. Everything you've been working on, carry on. This is kind of an extra, and it is something that I think, don't think about NFTs unless you are really, really ready for an adventure at this point. And don't think about them until you want to do an add-on to the fundamentals. In other words, get your ebook publishing up, understand your readers, their reader journey, what your value is to them, get all those, get your positioning in the marketplace right, your genre, your category, your subgenre, all those kinds of things. When they're in place and you're able to sell books at that level, is the time to begin to think about this. So what we're doing here is a heads up, really. It's a heads up. This is happening. It's already happening for some authors. There are lots of examples on the Ally blog yesterday. Lots of authors who are jumping in there. Joanna's jumping in. I'm putting a toe in. People are already doing it, but also it's something that's going to come, and it's more about blockchain, I think, than anything else. It's about understanding what blockchain can do. I'm quite sure that NFTs is only the start. We'll be hearing lots of funny acronyms and weird words in the next number of years that we'll have to get used to, because blockchain technology is a game changer, and that's going to bring out people's innovation and creativity. And so, yeah, keep an eye, watch the space, and we'll bring it to you if we think it's worth your time and attention, and we do think NFTs are.
Indeed. And I have lots more interviews also on my podcast, the Creative Penn podcast, and check out the one with Creatopia, which is coming on the 5th of November, 2021. Okay.
And if I could, before we go, just give a plug to your book. I think it's a really good place for people to start, because you look at all these emerging technologies. So can you just give them the name of the long title again? I can never remember it off the top of my head.
It's a really long one. It's called like Artificial Intelligence, Blockchain, and something else.
Technologies.
Yeah,
Joanna Penn. Yes, is what you need to remember. Joanna Penn.
Or the creativepenn.com/books, and it's there. And yeah, that was kind of a positioning thing for last year. And I feel like things are moving so quickly, but we're trying to stay up. And as Orna said, this is an and thing. This is not a replacement thing. This is I'd be doing ebooks, paperback, hardback, large print, audio, and an NFT. It's kind of crazy, but hey, we got to have some fun. So we are almost out of time. Is there anything you want to share about the coming month, Orna?
Not really, except to say to everybody, it is the most important season of the year for selling books. You will sell most of your books in the next 2 months. So, to gear up for that, we have with Black Friday approaching, we have some fantastic sale offers coming up. So keep an eye on the blog for that, and services and products and things that you will be delighted to use from our partner members. So yeah, keep an eye on selfpublishingadvice.org for those, because that's always a very popular feature at this time of the year.
Fantastic. All right. So next month, the beginning of December, we are going to talk about planning for 2022. We're going to be looking ahead and talking a bit about what we're planning to do. And then in January, we're going to look at AI narration for audiobooks, which we were going to cover today, but we decided there was way too much to talk about. So we're going to do that later. We are both going into AI narration as well. So we'll talk about that then. But yes, planning for 2022 will be next month's Advanced Salon. Right, anything else, Orna?
No, looking forward to that. Until then, everybody, happy writing and
Happy
happy
publishing.
publishing.
Bye.
Oops, bye.